Hello and welcome to the Mitchell Law Tea Break. I'm Joanne Sefton and the title of today's video is Employment Tribunals, What If It Happens to You? And I'm here with Catherine to talk about that terrifying subject.
Thanks Joanne, I'm delighted to be recording another tea break, so where are we going to start?
Well, a bit of background, as many of our viewers will know, as of 2013 claimants had to pay a fee to bring a claim in the tribunal and the number of claims fell drastically. Last summer the Supreme Court ruled that fees were unlawful and with immediate effect no more were payable. So at that point the number of claims rocketed.
And it's certainly true that we've had many more clients coming to tell us they've had a claim brought against them.
Yeah, and often those claims won't end up in tribunal. They might be settled, they might be withdrawn, or if you're faced with a particularly weak claim, you might be able to get it struck out.
But what if that hasn't happened? So you've done the months of preparation, you've read the documents a million times, you're going along to the tribunal and you know you'll be giving evidence. What should you expect?
Well, that's the purpose of this video. It's a bit more light-hearted than some of the previous ones, but we hope to demystify the process in a way that's reassuring and helpful to our viewers, whether you're an HR professional facing your first trip to the Employment Tribunal or even a claimant bringing a claim without a lawyer.
Well, I'll throw something in to start with. So, bin your vision of the Old Bailey, or if you're as ancient as me, Crown Court or some other courtroom drama, most tribunals are fairly administrative sort of places, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen any oak panelling. No one wears gowns or wigs. The judge won't have a gavel to bash and you'll give evidence sitting at a table, not in some kind of glorified pulpit.
I can sense the mounting disappointment out there.
I'm sure. Well, to be slightly more serious, the tribunal was originally meant to be a non-legalistic environment where employees and employers could come along in person and put across their points. I think that ethos is still present in terms of the relative informality of the proceedings, although I think it's fair to say that the law itself has developed a level of complexity, which means anyone who can afford or have access to legal representation would be well advised to take that up. I suppose we would see it that way.
Yeah, that's another debate, but before we even get into the tribunal room, there are a few things that I always tell my clients to be aware of. And first, that there are security checks, and in some tribunal centres it can take quite a while to get to the place you're meant to be, so do leave plenty of time. And having said that, the security checks didn't stop one claimant I was up against turning up with a bag containing a very large plank of wood with a 6-inch nail coming out of it. So I suppose they're not infallible.
Eek. That does sound like a memorable one. Assuming the other side isn't actually going to assault you, the other advantage of turning up early is that you can get to talk to them. There's a surprising number of cases that are settled at the doors of the courts, and even if you don't actually settle, you might resolve some issues that can make the hearing run more smoothly. Sneakily, I also tend to turn up early to try and bag a conference room so I can speak to my clients in private. There aren't always enough conference rooms for everybody.
It does always put the other side of it at a bit of a disadvantage if you have a private base to camp out in and they're stuck next to the vending machine.
Yeah, clients are always really surprised by how much waiting around there is, aren't there? Judges don't have any reading time in advance, so they'll often send the parties out to read the documents. You have to wait for this decision, and there might be minor decisions as the case goes along. So bring Kit Kats and your laptop. That makes all the waiting around a bit less frustrating.
It does. So when we do get into the room, the basic setup is that the lawyers sit in front with the respondent on the left and the claimant on the right. And there will be some rows of chairs behind where the witnesses sit.
Yeah, unless they're in Scotland and then they wait outside until they're called.
Well, it's all different in Scotland.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, I have had cases where people have got a bit agitated because the doors opened up and 10 law students or CIPD candidates all walk in. Of course, it's a public hearing. The reality is there doesn't tend to be that much interest from the public in the vast majority of cases themselves, but you might well be visited by people who want to see the process as it goes on.
Yeah, and in fact, that's another tip that I give to witnesses. Do go and see a tribunal in action because there's no better preparation.
Yeah, definitely. So everyone sits down, the judge will introduce the people in the room and normally clarify the issues in the case and then move quite quickly to the first witness. If you're a witness, you will stand at the witness table and you'll be asked to take an oath, and you agree with the clerk beforehand what sort of oath you're going to take. You then sit down, your written witness statement will be in front of you, and you'll have the bundle of documents that are relevant to the case as well.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that because sometimes that takes people by surprise and you can't take your own notes up there, can you?
No, any relevant notes that you have should be in the bundle. In fact, it's really key to the smooth running of the case not to constantly have new documents popping up all the time. If the preparation has been done properly, it should all be in there. Anyway, the tribunal will take time to read your statement or indicate that they have read it, and then we get on to cross-examination.
That's the worrying bit.
Absolutely the worrying bit. I think the time that I knew that I was going to be all right and make it as a barrister was about my second or third case, when the witness I was cross-examining asked for a cigarette break.
Right.
And we saw him light up, and my client said to me that he'd actually given up 4 years earlier.
So there are things you can do though in terms of preparing. So knowing your documents, knowing your statement, not getting worked up in advance about all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not allowed for lawyers to coach the witnesses on how they should give their evidence, but without going into the specifics of the case, there are things that I will run through with clients about how to deal with the situation and how to present themselves. So for example, you direct your answer to the judge, not the person asking you the question. And that breaks the exchange with them, which means it's less likely to get confrontational.
Yeah.
It helps the judge because they're probably trying to take a note, and potentially it helps you build a rapport with the judge, which can be important. Of course, no one's expecting that you're going to come across perfectly. A tribunal just wants to see that you're answering honestly and trying to give your best evidence.
Yeah, so maybe not being over-prepared is key. So moving on, because time is short, once the witness has been cross-examined, there might be questions from the tribunal itself or possibly from their own lawyer. And once all the witnesses have been heard, the lawyers present speeches called submissions, and that's the last attempt to persuade the judge that they're in the right. Then everyone goes out, has bad coffee, and the judge makes up their mind.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Before we end though, most memorable day in the employment tribunal?
Well, I think for me it's the 6-inch nail man. How about you?
Well, I'll never forget the case that had 4 guide dogs in the room, and a couple of them seemed quite, shall we say, interested in each other.
And on that bombshell,
thank you for watching. If you would like our advice in relation to a tribunal claim or any other matter, then please do get in touch. Otherwise, if you've enjoyed the video, then it would be great if you could share it or think about subscribing to the channel. Thank you.